Now, Ref, I'm super glad that you're here.
Mhm.
And one thing that you and I share sort of a passion for is gaming. You've described
Yeah.
yourself as a casual hardcore gamer.
Yeah.
What about your style of gaming would you say is casual and what's hardcore?
Well, basically, I don't really play any casual games like, say, I don't know, Candy Crush or Flappy Bird, whatever you say. I usually stick with stuff that's more mainstream, maybe like Witcher 3
Mhm.
or Call of Duty, whatever. Most of the stuff that's popular, I end up liking.
Mhm.
But it's just I don't have that much time because I'm usually jumping upon multiple things. So, adulthood happens and we have to do our real jobs
Yeah,
outside of outside of
yeah.
our passions and our other um, things that we like to do. So that's where the casual hardcore goes into. Like I used to play Smash Brothers like competitively. Same thing with Street Fighter 4
Oh,
back in the day.
shit.
Yeah, but it's just I can't dedicate 10 hours a day to practicing anymore. So yeah, so it's just it kind of fell off to the wayside. But I still love those styles of games. And yeah,
I,
that's why myself and my co-host on my podcast, Ray, he's a half Filipino guy too.
oh, shit.
Yeah, yeah. So like he's also in the same boat. He just doesn't have the time to really invest that much. So yeah,
Yeah, that's the thing that always goes first when you start working is like, damn, I don't have that much time to go play. And I'm
yeah,
I'm right there with you because I actually play Smash. That's my game,
yeah,
and we'll sort of go into that a little later. But yeah, that's the tough thing. It's like you have so many games on your list that you want to play, or you buy games that you just never are able to finish. It's like you
yeah.
have the hardcore interest, but you have a casual person's amount of time to finish it.
Yep, I have my gaming laptop like right around the corner. There's over 120 games on my Steam library. I think I finished maybe 30. So yeah, and the rest of them have like under 2 hours played just because, you know, I'm the type of person who likes to be busy and I like doing things.
uh,
So, other than gaming, I have a lot of hobbies, so I just jump around doing a lot of stuff.
no, same here. I mean, for millennial gamers like you and I, we grew up in an era where uh, gaming carried a really heavy stigma. Back then, I remember when Doom was literally blamed as the cause of Columbine, and
Yeah.
most gamers were stereotyped as childish, and to a large extent, a lot of them nowadays still are. And I remember
Mhm.
my mom telling me that games would rot my brain, and I wasn't learning anything from them.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
was it like for you? What role and relationship did you have with gaming when you were growing up?
Well, it was kind of one of those stigmatized things too. Both my parents being first generation immigrants from Manila, so they really had no interest in video games in general. So what they did was like they limited me to 3 hours a week of playing on my games,
Oh,
all the way through my teenage years.
oh, I
3 hours a
totally
week.
feel that shit.
And then after that, they basically were like, "Oh, your 3 hours is up." They would unplug my N64 and then go hide it somewhere. And they did that up until I was maybe like 15 when I finally could like buy stuff on my own. So,
Oh. See,
and
and that's like it's
God,
funny because that's the kind of shit that it makes you the type of gamer when you're older where you're like, you know what, I didn't play all those games. I'm gonna go back and like I'm gonna buy the old games that I didn't finish playing, and now anytime I want a game, I'm just gonna get it. Yeah, I remember growing up and my mom was like gaming only on the weekends, and I had like a strict bedtime, so gaming was sort of I definitely had the same sort of relationship.
yeah. Even though we had a strict bedtime, me and my older sister, we we never really stuck to it because both of my parents are also nocturnal too, so they didn't go to bed until 1 o'clock. So all of us would be just up, and they would be like, Why aren't you in bed? No, why aren't you in bed?" And it would just be one of those problems. So it was just yeah. But eventually, finally, now that I'm in my 30s, my parents are like, "Okay, this is who you are. You're never gonna change. Fine,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
whatever." But yeah, growing up, and it's just yeah, like half my life, it was it was not a healthy relationship with gaming at all.
Yeah, it was super surreal. And now you've sort of went um full circle. You started off only being able to play 3 hours a day. Now you have a podcast called Gaming R&R.
Mhm.
Tell me about your podcast. How did you come up with the idea? What was sort of the inspiration?
Well, it was actually my buddy Ray, who came up to me with the idea. He's kind of a more private person, so he wasn't able to really come on here. But he was like, okay, so we don't necessarily like talking about gaming,
Mm-hmm.
or not in the traditional sense. We don't review it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't talk about gaming news. We're more what how does gaming affect us in a society or a culture, and how do we actually go into that? So that idea has been mulling over for almost a year now, probably around Father's Day of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And basically we've been shooting ideas back and forth, recording episodes here and there, and it's only recently, like in the past month or so, that we actually released our first episode
Mm.
of the podcast itself.
Uh-huh.
And gaming with R&R, Ray and Raf, I know, very original.
Mhm.
We just decided, hey, I'm sure there's people in the niche that want to talk about like the psychology behind gaming. Like we talk about recently morality in gaming and how you act, does acting a certain way in games actually make you a shitty person? Probably not, but it could be. Or maybe is it cathartic for you? We also have other episodes where we talk about how to get loved ones into gaming, and how to actually introduce that part of you, who you are, to people you actually care about. Or maybe cooperative board games. We also cover tabletops too. Both he and I are huge Dungeons and Dragons fans. I'm actually running a D&D game after this.
Damn.
Yeah. So yeah, we talk about all sorts of stuff, ranging from not just morality, but also personality, competitive gaming. Yeah, we're still evolving the idea, but that's pretty much the basics. We don't talk about the actual gaming part of gaming. We talk about the stuff around gaming and how it affects society itself, including inclusivity too.
Honestly, I love that idea. Having followed gaming news for such a long time, it really is hard to figure out, what new games are coming out, because there's always new shit coming out. But one of the platforms that I've always appreciated for their gaming content is Kotaku, because they would do a lot of journalism sort of like that, where they would talk about sort of the psychological or the social aspects of gaming,
Mhm.
why we game, why certain gamers end up a certain way, or why we choose certain games. And I always find that fascinating because, oftentimes when outsiders who don't play games talk about gamers, they sort of mix them in as if they're all sort of like, oh well, they're all just playing these video games. But it's like,
Right.
if you know the stereotype of a Counter Strike player versus somebody who plays Street Fighter, it's totally different. It's
Yeah,
like,
and you're not going to come across the same type of person who's going to play Animal Crossing for 300 hours
yeah,
either.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Each person who plays a different game likes different things, and like recently we were talking about like getting loved ones into games, because we just recorded that episode a few hours ago, actually.
Oh shit, nice.
So yeah, and we were talking about how Ray's mom, just some 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 tiny Filipino lady from like one of the provinces in the Philippines, lived in a tree hut, that kind.
Uh-huh.
When she came over here, she was like, "Oh, I'm never gonna play video games ever," and then she just happened to pick up their Game Boy, or one of their portable games, and then just started playing Animal Crossing, and then she ended up putting like 500 hours into it.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. And
Damn.
yeah, so everybody likes something different, and it's going to be a different personality for each kind of person. And she probably clutched onto that idea of Animal Crossing because, those of you who don't know, it's like you come across a debt and then you have to work to actually pay it back, and you go about doing that by like cutting weeds, or like selling things, or maybe clearing people's lawns. And it's kind of like the immigrant story of having to work your way up from doing nothing. or not
Oh
doing
my
nothing,
god,
but coming
yeah.
from nothing. So she kind of clutched onto that idea. So you know.
Oh, I mean, I totally resonate that. I picked up a couple years ago Stardew Valley, and
Mhm.
I'm a gamer who I grew up on Halo. I grew up on Smash, so I was always playing games that were all right. Let's scrap. Let's see who's better.
Yeah.
And I never really got into RPGs. I never really got into single player games. I was always playing
Mhm.
multiplayer games because I always just like I had an older brother who I was really competitive with, so it was just sort of a natural thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but like you said, playing these games where it's primarily life scaling, it's a completely different experience. Like the
Hmm.
transformation and the emotion that you feel isn't like a peer to peer, like, oh, I'm better than you thing, but it's sort of a, oh, like, wow, I put in these hundreds of hours and now this farm is beautiful, like that's mine. And it's fascinating how, especially now hearing from older folks who are getting into games,
Hmm.
and seeing how games can benefit them and people of all ages and backgrounds.